Hello, my name is Ryan Root, former owner of one of the largest underground labs, the black market steroid operation in U.S. history. For a local client base, for a small city, I had a decent client base. And everyone knew that I was the man to come to in my small city for if we wanted juice. But it still wasn't enough to make a lot of money, and I couldn't make ends meet. So one of my clients one time mentioned that there was a website that they went to online, and that I should look into it and think about becoming a supplier on it. And I had never thought about taking it online. So I went in and just started researching. I started looking into it. What I had done in the past is I just started to become very excellent at supply chains and finding where to source all of this stuff, get the best quality stuff at the cheapest prices. So I had a source from China that had unheard of prices, unheard of low prices. So when I started researching online, I started looking. I thought I can compete here. I can do this. I can compete with everybody else who's selling on here. So I slowly just decided that I was going to try it. One day I decided, okay, I'm going to get a bigger stock than usual. I'm going to go online and I'm going to do this.
So when you started selling, I don't know if you remember the specifics. Let's say in your first month, was it kind of slow going? Was it just a little bit here, $100, $500? I guess what did it look like after your first month, where you look back?
Took it step by step. Was able to get some help to actually, get me online, get me a website, make it anonymous. That was kind of difficult too. Nobody trusted a UGL, like an underground lab or a black market dealer that didn't have a name brand, a specific worldwide name brand that everybody recognized. If you didn't have that, you were a scammer, and nobody wanted to deal with it. So it was really hard to get a brand name because everybody would get angry. So when you go online and you would just post as a nobody, and you would say, okay, I have some steroids for sale. Everybody would laugh and just start, just pulling apart your character, disrespecting you, making you feel bad. You were, in their minds, you were definitely a scammer. So I realized how hard this was going to be. And when I first started it, I was hoping that maybe I could make $200 to $300 extra a week. And I thought that was a stretch. Like, that's a lot. I don't think that's even possible. But if I could do that, that would make this all work. Right? They had very poor business practices. So when I went online and started adhering to some good business practices, I started putting together some pretty simple, business ideas to draw on a crowd and make sense. It really started to take off. It really started to work. One of the things I did right was I picked some ambassadors, people who had big names within the online communities, and I just gave them free products. So I said, hey, just take this and talk about it. Talk about the stuff that you got. And that's actually what sparked it. When I had a couple of these guys who had big names, had a lot of respect throughout these communities, I sent them for free stuff. They started talking about it. Oh, this stuff is great. It's working well. The best part is it was cheap and it was free shipping, and it got here in 2 days after I ordered it, which at the time was unheard of. It was taking people 2 weeks to get their product. As a simple business practice, all I did was use priority shipping, 2 to 3 day shipping, and I gave people free shipping, which it wasn't a big deal. But something simple like that made people want to come to me. They want their product in a few days, and I was able to do that. I was the only one at the time able to do that. So to answer your question about what happened in the first month, like I went from being, in poverty, kind of destitute. I was poor. I couldn't even afford to go and eat out at Applebee's. I was lucky to be able to get McDonald's here and there. Within the first, I'll go all the way to 6 months. Within the first 6 months, I was probably bringing in $12,000, $15,000, $21,000 a week. It just absolutely took off and blew up. And what I really found ironic and funny was that, like I said, I really only expected to make $200 or $300 extra a week. But how could I have known that the steps I was about to take would give me more power, money, and prestige than I'd ever dreamed possible?
Say I'm a civilian who wants to get bigger, find some. People would just Google. I know there were certain specific sites they could go to go find trusted ones. I know Eroids and some of the older name ones where you could look at reviews. So when you set up sort of an online profile on there, did you have an online store? Did you have a website? I guess for your customer facing interactions, was it just forums and sort of word of mouth? How did you present yourself to customers in the digital space, in the cyber world?
So I was on one of the biggest anabolic steroid, black market steroid sites in the world. And it had something like a million unique hits a month. And it's kind of like a big steroid mall, right? Where you have all these suppliers, but there's a lot, like 500 or so, more. There's probably more now. And they're rated. So they all come with reviews, and depending on how high the reviews come in, you start moving up the list. And, obviously the number one guy gets the most business because everybody just kind of goes to the number one. But a lot of people will pick probably the first 20, the top 20. You really just, from this site, you just have people connecting with you. And I did have a website, but at the time I didn't need like a shopping website or a detailed website. All it had was my business name and my email address. And people would just email me. So I would just get an email, hey, I would like a list. I see all your reviews on this forum. Then I have a list, and then they just start talking to me. And that's when customer service came in too. Like I would just really, I'm very adept. I'm a social chameleon. I'm very adept at talking to people, making them feel comfortable and helping. And that's what I did. My customer service set me apart as well.
Somebody would have to know that these sites exist or where to go to find them. Then you would go through and kind of choose the top one, similar to Amazon. Most people are going to look in the first 2 or 3 pages, and they're really not going to go 27 pages back. So you're relying on people to give you good reviews to be able to move up that list. And to do that, you would reach out to ambassadors and send them product and try to get that feedback.
I only had to do that at first. The first 3 ambassadors were really the only ones I did that with, and they passed the word around enough to now just my quality products, my good service, my fast shipping was enough for everybody to talk about it. So now on the forums, on different forums too that I wasn't even a part of, people are talking about this one seller over on this other forum has got really good products, and most importantly, gets it to you in 2 days. And just stuff, word of mouth like that, people just start flocking.
I get hundreds of emails a day. If I take a day or 2 off, I'll come back. I know last week when I was out, I had over 1,000 emails I had to go through. With the level of customer service that you were providing to customers, and you saying you're taking time to answer people and sort of even talk about their lives and things. Can you talk about the volume of emails you might have been getting? Was it small? Was it big? Was it completely out of control? How did that kind of go?
Yeah, it could get out of control really fast. 400 emails a day. That's the beginning. Business just kept going up. So if I missed a day, something happened, it would quickly get out of control. And the same thing, I would have over 1,000 emails, but I have to answer specific questions, and each email is not really quick. So yeah, it could get out of control. So what I had to do is build a system that allowed me only to do what I was best at and focus on customer service. And if I was going to miss a day, I'd also train people to be able to answer emails for me. Nobody else could do it like me, but at least they could keep the business running, and I could come back and put any fires out when I came back, and then we keep everybody happy and keep everything going.
In a business where nothing's legal, how do you recruit someone or get help on? I'm assuming it started with one and then kind of grew from there. But with that type of business, how do you hire people?
I was doing these emails at work, at the emergency room, right? So I was seeing a patient, I would come back, answer some emails, take some payments, have some have some steroids shipped to a customer, which in retrospect was pretty stupid because the IT can see everything that everybody's doing on the work computers. And in retrospect, that was probably pretty stupid. But nothing ever came to that. So I would work while I was working, and then I'd get off at about 11 o'clock at night, get home by 11:30, and still have 200 emails to answer and 15 packages to package up. I would have to go collect the money from Western Union the next day, which is a process and package all the orders, take them to the post office. It quickly, very quickly got overwhelming to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. So I remember there was one day I was up till about 4 a.m. doing emails and packing up the shipments. I finally went to bed. I have to get up, go to the gym, go to the work, turn on the computer. I'm going to answer a few emails and check some of the forum, the website, to answer any questions, stay on top of any comments people are making. And I had like 300 emails. I had 15 packages next to me. I was going to pick up a few, $3,000 or $4,000 at Western Union. Who knows how much more, money, orders, and shipments, and just people just wanting were in these 300 emails. And I quickly started to panic. Like I'm not a guy with a penchant for anxiety attacks, but if I've ever had one, it was probably those times. I remember just breaking down, sitting on my bed, and putting my head down in my hands and saying, I can't do this anymore. This is terrible. After going and collecting this money and part of the money that was there, I was about to have $100,000 cash at my house, and I'd never even dreamed I would ever be holding that much money. So, and I said, I'm going to get caught. Like this has got too big. This got out of hand. I'm going to have to stop this. What I'll do is I'll just fill all these orders that are right here, but I'm quitting after this and tell everybody I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I started to think about it's more the people, right? I was helping so many people at this point that they depended on me, like, and they were emailing me almost every day telling me that I made their lives better and thanked me for what I did. They're a better, they're a better husband, they're a better father to their children. They feel better. They just have better lives. And I was the reason. And I started thinking about letting all these people down. That's what really drove me. And of course the money was an issue too, but it wasn't as big a part of it. Like greed isn't a big a part of it as people think. It's more about the passion for helping, and not letting people down, and being, having that dopaminergic reaction of knowing that I'm a part of something bigger myself and I'm helping a lot of people. So when I started to think of that, all of a sudden I just picked my head up. I got this stern look on my face. I almost got angry, and I said, fuck that. I can do this. And that's when I just started hiring people. Okay, let's put a plan of action together. I needed a guy to start mailing all my stuff. I needed a guy to start packing all the orders because that's just taking too much of my time. I need people to pick up Western Union. So I just started hiring. And so now your question was, well, how do I find people? And that's the thing. That's the thing that a lot of people don't understand is I can't put out resumes. Right? I can't go and pick out people with great qualities that graduated college and have these great assets that would work for my business. I just got to go pick from a pool of my friends, and your friends aren't always the best guys for your business. So there was a lot of problems. I don't care. You just make this happen. This is what needs to get done. It needs to get done fast, and there's no option otherwise. And fortunately, the money was flowing up enough. I was able to pay people well to do these jobs. And before I knew it, though, people were begging me for jobs. I know the narrative that the prosecutors pushed was that I hardly paid anybody, and that's just what they say because they have to, they have to defend the reasoning for spending all this money to arrest myself and the rest of the people that they got arrested in Operation Cyber Juice. So they make it sound like we had these, these awful businesses, but in reality, I paid everybody very well. People begged me for jobs, and they were very happy to work for me.
You said people were begging you for jobs. Does that mean people started to know what you were doing?
Right. So that's a good point too. So it was important that I kept this secret, because the way I was going to get busted was just from some local people talking, and the local cops coming and finding something out and being able to bust me locally. So I had to keep this anonymous. So I really didn't tell many people, but in the few inner circle of people that, that I decided to trust, whoever I asked was more than happy to help. And, the few people who did just kind of find out or just started noticing that I was doing well for myself.
Did you have anyone in your life that you were close with that you either had to hide that from or sort of talk to about that, maybe explain that everything was going to be okay?
Yeah, that's an interesting question too. I did have an off and on girlfriend at the time, and she was okay with everything. She had known me since I was a local dealer, so it wasn't that much of a problem. After we broke up and I started seeing other people though, and trying to get a new girlfriend. It was something that you couldn't talk about, and that night that they found out exactly what you do, it's pretty interesting. And it was interesting for a lot of the people that work for me too. Like they would have girlfriends that didn't know what we were doing, but after a while, with the the lifestyle we were able to lead, it got obvious that something's going on here, and it was always interesting, but it was never met with complete animosity. It was never met with derision, right? It was always kind of like at first it was, "Are you sure this is smart?" type of thing, and then when you see all the benefits and see that, wow, there's a lot of people who really are appreciating, and you're actually, you're helping a lot of people.
If you have a friend and their girlfriend just finds out, did that part make you nervous for a while? At any point, they could get pulled over or get a DUI or anything in their life where they could maybe say something. I think the more people you start to add to that, the more steps you go out from that. Did that start to make you nervous as that kind of grew?
It wasn't like we were hurting people or trying to hurt people or stealing from people or anything like that. So most people, surprisingly enough, and I wouldn't have guessed it would have gone like this, but most people, after an initial surprise, were actually on board.
When you're starting out, I know with any business, you get a product at wholesale, you sell it at retail, keep the difference. When you first started getting product, were you buying vials and just selling vials as a markup? I guess, how did you take your business online? You sell directly to customers, but how did you really figure out, hey, how do I get this product to me? When you're doing Underground Lab, did you have to learn all the steps to that? Did you find someone that already knew it and you partnered with them?
I started reselling the British Dragon supplement, British Dragon steroids. British Dragon was one of the bigger names in the world at the time. A Chinese supplier who used to, they rebranded their own British Dragon because the original British Dragon got busted, went down in a big, a big worldwide, internationally known raid. And so the company the Chinese supplier I was using just took over the name and started making British Dragon stuff, right? And it looked pretty close to the original. And the thing is that most people knew that it was this other company that was doing it, not the original British Dragon, but it was still good stuff. It was still high quality products. So that was just a case of people knew but didn't care because it was always good anyway. So anything with the name British Dragon was still associated with quality. So I was reselling these, it was called International Pharmaceuticals was the Chinese supplier I was using at the time. They no longer are in business. They went out of business right when I was in the middle of my reign. So I had this British Dragon product. Now, as I was saying, the Chinese supplier got a little unreliable at times. Like sometimes he would just kind of disappear for a month. And that was terrifying to my business. Like I had all my eggs in one basket. I was very fragile at the time, right? Because if something happened to this guy, like my business is over. I'm done. That was my supply. I looked for other suppliers, but the products were so expensive, like so much more expensive. I would have had to raise my prices, and that would have destroyed my whole model. My whole business was to have the cheapest prices. So I realized I was too reliant, and I was looking for other suppliers. I needed another brand. I needed to be able to build a more robust system, something that wasn't so fragile. I started to hear about this. Well, I knew all the bodybuilders in our area, or the steroid dealers. We all knew each other, so I was aware of this person, but we were never really close. I knew that he had made his own stuff before. I knew that everybody said it was great, and I knew he was able to do it really cheap. So I arranged a meeting with him to propose a business partnership. He didn't know what I did at the time because I did keep it pretty quiet. I still remember the night that I let him in on everything that was going on, and this is what I need from you. We're going to start this business. We're going to partner in this thing and blow this thing up. And his mouth was just open. Like he couldn't believe the amount of money that was coming in already, the customer base that I already had, and the opportunity that was right in front of him. He just didn't say much. His mouth was open, and just like, yeah, let's do it. So I said, I think I even gave him like $12,000, and I said, can you just get enough product to get started, and then we'll just keep going from here. And so sure enough, he took the money, put it, got all the product, made mass quantities of everything, and that's how my UGL was born. I actually tasked somebody else because I'm not good with labeling or branding or creating graphics or anything. So I tasked another one of my employees, come up with a name and a label, and he did, and it worked. It looked pretty good. He came up with Matrix Labs. Yes, because now I had my own brand. I didn't think it was going to go over that well at first. So I put my own label, these Matrix Labs, with the British Dragon, and then I started to realize that I was the brand. It wasn't the products I had. So when I offered them a product that was a little cheaper and higher dose, people just started buying it up immediately. And the British Dragon stuff almost got left to the wayside. And I'll be damned if just a few months later, that guy didn't disappear for good. And had I not started that Underground Lab at that time, my whole business would have been destroyed. But because I had this other business, I was making a higher profit margin because it was cheaper to make it than to buy.
Initially, you had a supplier, and then as contacts started to fall, you pivoted, you saw a local opportunity, and then you took off on your own, distancing yourself from that Chinese supplier with the lab that you created yourself.
Chinese suppliers notice you, and they come flocking to you, and they want to sell you their powders. So I had a lot of offers. So I told everybody, and I had like 50 of them, send me supplies. And at the time, you couldn't send anything to any lab. We found one guy who would do mass spectrometry at his college lab, and we were able to actually start. We were one of the first labs because you couldn't do that at the time. Now you can send stuff away and get it analyzed and come back with a purity, but it didn't exist at that time. But we were able to find a guy who was doing it, who would do it for us. So we were actually able to get purities and test all these for impurities. But before we did that, I used to just pay a lot of my customers. I used to ask my customers to help. Hey, look, I need you to take this dose. Go get your blood work. I'll pay for it. and then show me what the blood work. So we had like an expectation of what a good product should bring your blood work to. And I did that with hundreds of my clients. And they just helped. And that also helps with branding, right? Because when people feel like they're helping this business, they're helping with the quality, they're helping making this business, like it attracts loyalty, it makes people loyal. And so that's what we do. I would have my customers help me. And so now I've vetted 100 different powder suppliers. We came up with the 3 top that had the most consistently the highest quality. Now I had, 3 of the top powder suppliers in the world.
So you're ordering 15 kilos of powder material weekly. And how many vials would you be able to produce after making like a kilo, or what was your average, I guess, batches look like?
Yeah, so 1 kilogram would make about 300 vials.
How many products at one time would you be offering customers? I guess what was your like?
Another thing why people came to me is because I had a very extensive list, and that was only because the Chinese supplier I had at the time had a very extensive list. So I would just order a little everything. I would say, once I got going, I would just say, send me a little everything.
Generally, from all your clients and customers, would you say your biggest customer base is your general gym goer, your average Joe, someone that just wants to look better? I guess can you talk about who your customers are without specifically who they were?
Yeah, no, and that's a great question too. And the answer is, kind of what you're alluding to. It's not what you'd expect. The biggest percentage of my customer was people who already had legal TRT prescriptions. But my cost was about 1/8 of what you can get from a clinic. At the time, especially at the time, it was expensive to go to get on testosterone replacement therapy. So most of my clients had TRT prescriptions, but they would come to me because it was 1/8 of the cost, and I could provide even better quality, higher dose products for much cheaper, and it was much less cost prohibitive, and allowed them more financial freedom to do other things that they needed to do with their money instead of spend it on testosterone.
How would that customer get that product, and then you ship it to them, and then you recover the funds?
So this was a major part of a problem, especially when my client base hit a certain level. I actually go into that in my book. I say I had a problem. I was making too much money. It was a stupid fucking problem to have, but it was a problem. So there was a time when I was only collecting through Western Union. It was like an anonymous way to collect money. And I had a whole army of people that would just go out and just collect money. That was their job. They'd just go collect money. I paid them 6%. I found a lot of people, I don't even know if this exists anymore, but so a lot of people knew them as green dot cards, another anonymous way to send money. Essentially, you get a reloadable credit card, and people can go to their local grocery store and buy something to reload my card with just a number on it, a code. And you just buy that code, then they would just email me the code, I would put it in, and it would reload my card. And that was another anonymous way to do it. Well, once I found that, and there's a few other companies that did it besides Green Dot, that was a game changer for being able to collect money. Now I could, instead of having to pay people to go to collect Western Unions, I had like 30 or 40 of these cards, and I could just sit there and just, when people would pay that way, I would just load it onto my card. Boom, there it is.
How did your lifestyle kind of change from working a normal 8 to 5 to, it sounds like, being able to sort of do whatever you want?
Some of the best part was the financial freedom that came with, and be able to do whatever you want. 3 months of making $12,000 a week to $15,000 to $21,000 to $30,000 a week. It quickly got out of control and was just overwhelming. I mean, I never thought I would see that kind of money. So I would have to tell people, no, I can't go to Applebee's today because I don't have the money. Now we're going to Vegas dropping $60,000 on a VIP pool party, a VIP, table at night, to the most expensive restaurant in Vegas. We have a group of people, or South Beach was a great place for that. Yeah, but it was absolutely amazing to experience, going from not only having to living paycheck to paycheck, almost day to day. I mean, there was a time when I remember I had like $5 to eat for the day. And I used to get the McDonald's 99-cent cheeseburgers, and I'd get 5 of them. And that would last me all day. And I was grateful for McDonald's having this 99-cent because it allowed me to eat okay that day. So it was amazing to go from one extreme to the other. Like, that feeling was like nothing else. And it made it even better that, that you built that yourself. Like, the feeling of the pride that came with, I did this, I built this, I created this, this whole change for myself. I started at the end of 2011. By the middle of 2012, it was rolling. In the peak, it got bigger every few months. It just kept growing. So it got crazy. It didn't stop. The peak was just, as time went on, it just got bigger and bigger. I was able to buy a $110,000 Jaguar. I was asking around to a lot of people who can help me lease a car. And I don't have a lot of proved income, so I need somebody to help. But I have a lot of income. I got introduced to a guy, and he just kind of, he got it. He got what I was trying to do. He didn't ask about anything, where the money came from. He didn't care. But he just kind of, and he didn't do it himself. He just kind of very subtly got me to go someplace where I could actually print my own pay stubs. So I just kind of printed pay stubs from my company to myself, and he knew the guy at the bank, and it just kind of got pushed through. And there you go. I had a $110,000 Jaguar. If you could have a certain person just, vouch, a certain professional vouch that you did have the income, then you could bypass the tax requirements, showing tax papers and everything. There was a way to bypass all that. And, I had, there's a professional that knew, just knew that I could afford, and that's all the apartment complex needed. When you start getting up in the big figures, people want a piece of that. They want to get that, and they're willing to overlook things to get at, some of these hurdles to get at the money, like little loopholes or little ways around. The more money you have, the easier it is to get what you want.
2012, it's going really well. 2013, I'm sure the feds at that point are looking at lots of other people and then decide nationally, hey, we've got a national issue. Let's make an operation about it. We're going to name it. You get added to that. And so from 2013 to 2015, I don't know, do you know any details? So your business is still going strong, and they're watching the whole time? Or do you think they didn't just pick up until the end? I know in the operation, lots of places are down, 30 labs or something, multiple states. Do you know, and you may not through motion of discovery, how long it took them to sort of be onto you?
Mm-hmm. I have ideas. I mean, obviously they didn't disclose exactly that information, but like, you're right. In my court records, the discovery gave a lot of evidence as to what and I found out that they didn't know much. They had some facts. They had a lot of facts correct, and they made other stuff up. But it did appear that some of the facts that they had been doing an investigation for a long time. And I don't know the exact period of time. It was probably about the 2 years. But a lot of that investigation, because we're all anonymous, they couldn't figure out who we were. They did not have names. Or I'm sorry, they did have names because the girl told them names. But I hired a lot of new people after, so they didn't have any of the new names. We all had burner phones. They didn't have phone numbers. They didn't know much. I even remember pointlessly, like, the feds ordered off of my site a couple times, but that didn't give them any information. It didn't matter. You got steroids in the mail. You opened up and it was real. Okay, there's absolutely no evidence of where that came from. Like they didn't have anything. And in retrospect, this is another thing that I could have done, and it's possible we never would have got caught if it wasn't for this. They were able to connect the burner phones and connect them all together and get the web of text messages. Even though we tried to change the burner phones every once in a while, they were able, when we got new burner phones, they were able to connect that web and get all the text messages, and that was pretty incriminating. But if I had used something like Wicker or Signal that has, disappearing texts, they never would have got out of those. And I don't know if they would have had enough evidence to arrest anybody. Those text messages were that, that was all the information they needed. But they even they seized a couple packages, but again, it wasn't, they didn't seize, until the major arrest, they didn't seize anybody in possession of anything. And there's no evidence of who sent that or where it came from or what. So they didn't have a ton of information. And my lawyer was terrible, but one of the things he said that was correct was that they don't have a lot of facts that can point to you. They just they know you're the leader because everybody says it. And that's enough. Like if 10 guys get up there and say, this is Ryan Root, he was the leader of this operation, that's enough. That's all they need. And that's all they had, really. They didn't have as much evidence as you would think. They didn't need it. In a conspiracy, they don't need it. So that was it.
Day of your arrest. What were you doing?
All right, so I had just gotten back from Vegas. And I had a crazy, crazy time in Vegas. And I was still recovering because I drank enough to kill an elephant every day. And so I was just recovering. I couldn't move for a few days. And I remember we got back on Sunday, and it was Wednesday. And I was just barely starting to feel better. I think I was just going to get up and go to work. Get to work. And at 5 a.m., we heard this pounding on the door. My girlfriend and I. My little dogs started going crazy. And I kind of woke up and I almost couldn't believe, is somebody pounding on my door? And I got up and then I'm and my girlfriend's getting up and she's all kind of discombobulated and confused. And then sure enough, there's the pounding again. The dog's going crazy. And now I'm getting mad. I'm like, these motherfuckers. I was like, I'm going to go take care of this problem right now. And I get mad and I throw on, some clothes and I just go, and she had snuck out before I did, right? So she goes out to the door and I'm still back, probably putting a shirt on or something. I don't know. And then I go out there, but she went out there first and I thought she was going to figure out what was going on. And I'm coming back here and I'm going to take care of this problem. I'm mad. I'm going to show these people exactly that you should not be banging on my door at 5 o'clock in the morning. And she just went and looked at the peephole and they had it covered, or they had a light shining right in it so you couldn't see. And she just comes back and goes, I can't see. And I'm like, what? Why did you open it? So I just barge for the door and I grab it and throw it open. And there's 15 people in full riot gear with guns pointed at my head. And the guy, that federal officer from the post office, he's in front and he just puts his hand on the door and holds it open. And he just kind of goes, okay. And then okay kind of said it was he could tell that we weren't hostile. We didn't have guns or anything. And so it was an okay to all the people behind him. Okay, we got it. It's all good. Don't, put your guns down. But it was also an okay to me. We got you. Okay, it's done. We got you. And they took both of us, handcuffed us, put us on the stools, and or my kitchen stools that I had, and they were they were like, eventually someone comes around. Do you know why we're here? I was like, I have no idea. I knew why they were there. And the funny part is that more than one officer kept saying, this is a beautiful place. I had the penthouse that had floor to ceiling windows overlooking all of Manhattan, right over the Hudson River. It was gorgeous. And they couldn't shut up about it. This is a beautiful place. They were telling me that. Thanks. And for some reason I got a little satisfaction out of it. All these freaking guys working hard, coming to bust me, pissed off about their own lives, and and how they live, and maybe they should join my team and they can have some of this too. I don't know. But yeah, so that's how it happened. Then I went down, and I actually got released that day. I didn't spend a night in jail. I got released that day, and it was just shitty after that.
So when you're on your way, are you thinking, oh, this is minor, no big deal, they don't have much, or are you thinking this is over, I'm screwed and I'm fucked?
Yeah, I kind of knew it. I kind of knew it was over at that point. Like, I mean, your brain is turning to be like, do I have a defense? What do they possibly have? And you go over everything. What could they have? You start thinking like, there's no way that they have, direct evidence of me, because I never actually gave anything to anybody, right? So you don't have direct evidence of me actually selling to anybody. It was all done virtually. It was all done through other people, right? But then, you start getting some of the discovery and some of their, what the prosecution is saying and the information that they have. And then pretty quickly I realized that, and my lawyer told me that it's like, it doesn't matter. All they need is these 10 guys or 12 guys who are your employees to just say that, yes, you're Ryan Root and you were the leader. And that's all they need. And that's it. So right away, it was just like, I just plead guilty. And I actually took, like, and a part of that was to have them not go any further, right? Because there was other people that, what the feds do is they weaponize your friends and family, right? So had I started to form a defense and started to talk about pleading not guilty, they would have gone after people closer to me. And instead of doing all that, and I just figure like I'll just clean everybody's slate and just plead guilty. And that will be one of the conditions, is just don't go any further. Like, this is it. You got me. I'll plead guilty. Your investigation is done.
I think a lot of people would try to protect themselves as much as they could and sort of ride that out. And that's very honorable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And after I went to prison, there's a lot of people who did things like that. And my whole mentality is about helping other people. And if I could just plead guilty, I did do this, and I am accountable for those actions. I get that. I knew what I was doing. I knew I was doing something illegal. I am accountable for those actions. And especially if I can, just take the guilt for that and set set other people free for that, or get other people off of potential harm's way from that, then absolutely I would do.